ACEverything. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be talking about my top 5 animes on my top, I think it's a top 40 list at this point. I've been gathering this list for about the past 2 years, I would say. I actually use the Funimation app for my steady streaming or watching of anime. I don't tend to use Crunchyroll. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but I'm not a big fan of watching subtitled or subbed animes. I tend to watch dubbed animes. Now, I will watch subbed animes if I don't have the option of dubbed, but if I can avoid it and watch dubbed, I'm gonna watch dubbed animes. I find I have trouble keeping my attention on everything that's going on screen if I'm trying to watch subtitles. That might have something to do with my ADHD. It could be anything, honestly. Um, but I tend to enjoy watching dubbed animes more than subbed animes. I understand that people don't like the voice acting, and even sometimes I notice it. Honestly, it's just not as good. I do notice that sometimes, but I'm okay dealing with it in exchange for understanding what's going on screen without having to look at words scroll across the bottom. So it's not necessarily that I don't hate subbed animes or anything. It's just I like to be able to understand without having to read everything that's going on screen and everything like that. Just want to watch and enjoy. So it's easier for me if I watch dubbed animes. So none of these animes did I watch subbed. Quite frankly, there's only a couple animes I've ever watched in subtitles, and those are One Punch Man. Great anime. It's on this list. It's not in the top 5. It's down further, I believe, between 15 and 20. But number 2 is Kill la Kill. Another one that's on the list. Actually, probably one of my favorite fighting animes. Um, really cool animation style to that one. I love Ryuko. Probably one of my favorite female lead protagonists. Really cool anime. But those are the only two that I can ever remember that I've watched all the way through in subtitles. Of course, I technically haven't watched One Punch Man all the way through because the second season just got released. I'm probably gonna wait on that. Yeah, I get all my animes off of Funimation, which will limit some of my viewing habits. So if I'm limited, I will go to a website which will not be mentioned because if I mention it, it might be kind of taken off the internet, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm not going to mention it. But everybody that watches anime steadily probably knows what I'm talking about. Um, anyway, even probably some authorities know what I'm talking about, honestly. I don't think it really matters. But number 1 on this list, and easily my most favorite anime, and probably an anime that's never going to be usurped or moved from its current position at number 1. That number 1 anime is Tokyo Ghoul. I just finished that off probably 2-3 months ago, probably at the beginning of this year. They were supposed to release all the episodes and subbed in October, and I believe they did. Subtitles, they waited a little while longer, but we finished that off, and it's actually not only one of my favorite animes, but probably one of my fiance's favorite animes. We finished that one together. It's one of the many animes we've watched together. It's definitely a really good anime. It's definitely deserving of the spot. There's a few key things that I definitely like to judge animes on. Some of them being action, um, confirmation on couples. I think we all know it, even if it's weird because like, oh, I'm a man, I shouldn't care about that. I don't know. Societal stereotypes, who cares? Either way, it's all there, really, with this anime. It definitely gets you emotional. Protagonist, and this is one of the main reasons it's up there. Kaneki is easily the best protagonist I've ever seen in an anime by far. Now, I know a lot of the fans of the manga do not like the anime. I do not read manga at all, period. Manga, doesn't matter. Either way, I do not really read them very often. The only manga I've ever read was Fairy Tail. I've read that one all the way through at this point. And it's the only real manga. That and Naruto. I did read Naruto all the way through. Other than that, I don't tend to read a lot of manga. I'm just not. I just tend to like watching anime. So manga, I don't tend to pay attention to. So I'm just gonna be judging the anime that's presented to me, and Tokyo Ghoul, the anime, in my opinion, in terms of as just the anime. I'm not gonna be counting on. I'm not gonna be judging it on if it followed the manga or not. Um, So for that reason, it is one of my favorite animes, probably my most favorite anime at this point. I do believe Ken is a great protagonist. Fight scenes are absolutely amazing. The regeneration properties of ghouls are astonishing, honestly. You're amazed every time Ken will lose an arm or whatever else. He regenerates it in 2 seconds, and it's like he never even lost it. He's the perfect hero in my the perfect character for this type of role, honestly, because it gets you into that human type of mindset. You can really relate to his character. He's going from a human to a ghoul, and for a human to have to adjust to eating other humans, a normal human anyway, if you're, Jeffrey Dahmer or something like that, you probably would have no problem. But um, Ken, obviously, the average person is going to have a lot of trouble with that. And it's very relatable to see him struggle and kind of really, really have a hard time coming to terms with the fact he's going to have to eat humans. He's going to have to eat humans to survive. He's going to have to be okay with the fact he's a ghoul now. He cannot eat regular food anymore. It's also fun to see him, just his struggle with that, and his struggle with this war that comes out between the CCG and the ghouls. I can't remember exactly what exactly what area he lives in, but yeah, of course he ends up getting his job at Onteku, having this kind of a relationship come up with Toka, which is the coolest part of the anime in my opinion. Definitely coolest couple in anime, period. End of story. No comparison. Yeah, it's just a great anime altogether. A lot of great action scenes. And just the power. It's not. It just seems to grow. It just seems to become grow and grow and grow. And then the inner conflict that he suffers with his past abuse from his mother. He loves his mom, and especially all the shit that she put him through, and you can still tell he absolutely loves his mother. I don't know if I could relate to that. I probably wouldn't be. I don't know. So there's a lot that he struggles with, and then the guilt when he sees what he did to Hide and everything. It's just a lot. The only downside to that anime, I would say, I believe, was the early part of Dot Re. That was when he kind of, God, what was his name? When he became Heisei Sasaki, and he kind of became part of the CCG. He kind of lost his memory and stuff. That was a down part for me, big time. A big downside to that anime for me. It's like we were on that story arc in the second season. They after the first season, Toka kind of became a side character. Nobody paid attention to her, and it's like everything we built in the first season went on hold. And it's just like we were not exposed to anything related to the first season. So I kind of lost track of everything in the second season, and it just was like, what's the point? There wasn't a lot of motivation. Thank God. I believe it was in the 6th episode he started to remember who he was, and he started to understand, like, this is not who I am, and he started going back to being Ken. It's a good thing it came relatively early in the season, because if it had not, I don't know if I would have had the motivation to keep going through that. It was difficult. It wasn't bad, necessarily. It was just like we just jumped from one story arc to another, and it was so disruptive and sudden that it was hard to deal with. It was hard to deal with. Like, we got almost no explanation to what happened between him and the leader of the CCG. I can't remember his name. Once I get filming, I just forget everything, but we got, like, no real explanation what happened in that fight until later on, and so right at the end, he kind of remembers who he is, and he was absolutely a badass in that last fight. It was awesome. And just all the other characters were really great. But the big thing with that part of the season is they introduced us to all these new characters, and yeah, it's it was hard to care about them. It really was. It's just like I just did not care about any of these new characters. So, um, other than that, though, it was good. Just all the side characters and everything that came together. Um, it was all great. There wasn't necessarily a character in that anime that I hated, besides Fudata, and you're kind of meant to hate him. Uh, other than that, that's about it. Number 2 on the list is Steins Gate. This will probably be a long video. I'm already at like 10 minutes. This will probably go on for a while. Steins Gate was number 2, as you know. Probably should have seen that coming. At first I did. I actually, the first time I learned about this anime was watching a FB React video. I'm not a huge fan of the Fine Brothers, but every now and then I'll check out their videos. And I believe it was a reaction trying to predict or see if these people knew what these animes were based on their intro. And Steins Gate came up, and it was always on the Funimation app, and it kept getting recommended to me, but I kept ignoring it, and I'm just like, you know what, I'll finally check this out. And yeah, it's at number 2 for a reason. I believe it's a really, really good anime. Okabe, once again, is one of those really good protagonists, and he's very relatable. If you are not, like, emotionally destroyed by the end of this anime, you have no soul. I will say that right away, because he just has to go through spoilers in this video. I probably should have provided that within the first minute. There's spoilers in this video. Oh well, I guess I'll put it down in the video title, spoilers. So if people want to shy away, they don't have to watch the video. Anyway, he basically, he wants to just get a hold of time travel, and this great quest, and of course he really never thinks he's actually going to get access to it. He's just a kind of a talk is cheap type of guy. He talks a big game, but he never really thinks they're actually going to get access to time travel. They don't really think he never thinks it's actually going to happen. Then it turns out they absolutely do. And on one timeline, of course, they run into CERN, and he basically has to go through like a million tries trying to save Mayushi's life. He just goes through like a million tries trying to save her life, because it's just destined on that timeline. She has to die. He realizes the only way he's going to save her is by jumping to a different timeline. Problem is, during that timeline, of course, he falls in love with Makise Kuryasu, another really great pair. Honestly, I love them together. And when he jumps to the other timeline, of course, Makise's got to die, so there's no real perfect solution. I definitely like the first season better than the second. The second was kind of this is what's happening on this timeline. On the other timeline, of course, he's got to lose Makise. There's no way. So you just see him go through a million tries trying to save both Makise and Mayushi, and he literally, he basically suffers and suffers and suffers for, probably over a year with how many times he tried. And he's just basically destroying his mind. You just watch him lose his mind slowly, and, by the end of it, it's just it's one or the other, basically. It's either Makise dies or Mayushi dies. It's not really, you're not going to have both. Me, personally, I would have chose Makise, but, that's honestly kind of a messed up thing to say, honestly, but it is what it is. Overall, yeah, definitely one of my favorite animes. Of course, I've got the release, the years of release for all these animes. Tokyo Ghoul's 2014. Steins Gate 2010, a little earlier. Both of those I watched in dub, as I'd said. And, Steins Gate was a really good one. And then it's beyond just even, it's another one of those animes with, each character is really well crafted. Suzuha was awesome. She got her own little struggle story, and she was really interesting. She was cool to watch. She was very interesting. with her and, of course, her father. That whole situation, really fun. Well, interesting to watch, I should say, but really, really depressing. Like I said, if you're not emotionally destroyed by the end of this anime, there is something wrong with you. Number 3 is SAO, or Sword Art Online. Um, that was actually one of the first animes I ever watched on my own. I watched that on Netflix. I started out on Netflix. I watched like every anime on Netflix, and then I navigated it over to Funimation. I think in 2015. That's when I started that app, and I've maintained my subscription with them for the past 4 years, and I've never really been disappointed. It's easily got to be one of my best animes at this point. Once again, really solid protagonist. That being Kirito, of course, probably one of the probably one of the coolest. A little bit over exaggerated, but really cool protagonists you'll ever run into. And of course, him and Asuna are a classic. This anime is a bit old now. Of course, so is Steins Gate, about 7 years old. And you go through. That was one of the first. I think the first anime I seen with the whole stuck in a video game situation, and it really opened my eyes up to VR technology and stuff like that. I can only dream that we ever get to that level of technology. I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime, but if it does, I'll be hitting that game system every day. Of course, that could become unhealthy, but it's fun to see him struggle and kind of the circumstances of how they became sort of, they became okay with the fact that we might get stuck in this video game. My only complaint about the SAO series, and this isn't necessarily a complaint about SAO itself, but season 2, I liked it a lot. I liked season 3 too. Season 3 was like, God, you're gonna hate life. You're gonna cry. It's sad and depressing. But season 2, the female protagonist, Sinone, I really feel like she was wasted, honestly. I really feel like she should have gotten her own anime, honestly. And then they went and made an anime for Gun Gale Online itself. Gun Gale, GGO, SAO alternative, whatever you want to call it. And it was noticeable. I watched GGO. That is on this list too, and it's noticeably low. For just the reason of the female protagonist is not that interesting. And the story is not that interesting, honestly. It's basically just copied and pasted from SAO 2. The story is basically just the same thing almost. You got these people that got used to killing in SAO, and they missed that feeling, so they started killing in GGO. But the problem with this mainly was just Sinone was such a cool character. You really will notice, and you will notice, like, it's not Kirito's presence that's a problem. I would have had no problem if they made a separate anime and just had a crossover and had him presented in that anime. I had no problem with that. The problem was, Sinone is such a cool character. You will notice and you will feel it. It's like this. She really should have got her own series. She's wasted here. She's kind of set to the side a little bit, and especially after this season, all that really served. She really served. To the anime being in this instead of her own series was maybe a possible another love interest for Kirito, but that's not going to happen because he's so dedicated to Asuna. That's not going to happen. Like, they're not going to not be together. Like, that's just the way it is at this point. That's established. They're never not going to be together. So it feels almost wasted that Sinone gets set to the side, because after SAO2, she pretty much gets set to the side. No one pays attention to her. So it's like, why did I watch this? It's like, why was she in this? She could have done much better had she been let on her own, left alone, and given her own series. She would have done a lot better. So that's SAO number 3. Number 4 is Suzuka, and that's an anime that came out in 2004. Very early anime. This is the oldest anime on this list, and definitely a misfit out of this list. The first 3, obviously, they had some romance in it, but that's the central purpose of Suzuka, was a character-driven romance story, and that was basically what it was. It was the first anime of its kind that I had ever watched, where that's all it was focused on. Um, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that it's the most interesting of characters, but the story is really good. You really have fun with it. Um, the whole track thing, it's kind of a side situation. At first, you're like, I'm not really interested in this. This is just a track story. Who cares? I mean, I don't care about an anime about a track, like a sport. Like, who cares? But that becomes sort of a side story. I mean, your main story is watching Yamato and Suzuka get with each other and get together, and they have really good chemistry. It's a fun anime to watch. I suggest you check it out. Fuka is their sequel anime with their child. I was okay with it. Not sure it's on this list. I'm gonna have to adjust that. But it's not so amazing. It's okay. It's not bad. It's just not standout or anything. Number 5 is Fairy Tail, and I started watching that anime probably 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, something like that. And that's an anime I've watched exclusively with my fiance. I think we're on episode 300 at this point. There's still like another 5 episodes up there that we have to watch. They're not dubbed yet. But at this point, I'm comfortable judging it as a whole, and it's easily one of my favorite animes. I will say the big thing with this anime, I've mentioned with the other animes, that they have created a variety of very interesting characters, but with Fairy Tail, it's even greater. It's even greater. There's not really a... There's one character that I'll mention at some point that I hate with a passion, and honestly, if it weren't for her, this would probably be up higher. It'd probably be top 3 at least. I don't know if it'd be number 1. I don't see that, but at least be top 3. But every other character is pretty cool, actually. Natsu is a really good protagonist. I really like Gray. He's probably my favorite. There's a variety of different magics, which is really fun to watch. You never know what any one character's power is going to be. But everybody's really cool. Urza's a really cool feminine female protagonist. She's awesome. Macau's a little annoying. Gajiel's awesome. All these characters. Happy's okay. He's pretty cool. All these characters are pretty interesting. Levy, Wendy's okay. A little underpowered. I wish they would have powered her up a little bit further. But she's also a child. She'll figure it out eventually. And it's a great ride. It's a great blend. It's definitely the longest anime on this list by far. But unlike most, I would call them super shonens. That's what I call shonen animes that have a incredibly long length. There's never really been a point where I really lost interest in the anime necessarily. There was never a point where I was just uninterested and tired of the anime. That happened a few times in Naruto, which actually is one of my favorite animes. Duh. But a lot of the filler was really boring. Like, you'll really lose yourself in some of the filler. Excuse me. And, Fairy Tail, there was never really a point where I really got tired of it. I get tired of animes where it's just 10, 20, 30 episodes in a row spent on one fight. There will be times that will happen at times in Fairy Tail. Of course, Fairy Tail, I believe, came out in 2010-ish. Probably earlier than that, even. I remember seeing it on Netflix. I just ignored it, honestly. I never bothered with it. There's a few of them on there. But Fairy Tail in general, I think its biggest advantage is the story is really interesting. It keeps you interested. You're not going to fall out on it. And the variety of characters are really cool and interesting. And just the story with the Fairy Tail Guild itself is a lot of fun. And you're going to run into a lot of unique characters, but the antagonists are really good. I like the Irrational Seis. I actually like Zareth a lot. He's kind of a tragic type of antagonist. I won't spoil that. Too much to go into at this point, but it's a really fun anime. If you haven't watched it, you best check it out because it's really great, and you're missing out if you haven't seen it. So that's the top 5. We will do 6 through 10, maybe tomorrow, but probably by the end of this week. So that's it here. from us here. God, it's really bad. At ACEverything. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Drop your top 5 list at the bottom. Not everyone's going to agree with me, obviously. I think the biggest one they're going to pick at is Suzuka. That's really more of a bias thing. I just really like it. But this is not an overall great, this is not necessarily what I'd consider an accurate list of the top 5 of all time or anything like this. This is just my top 5 favorites. So Suzuka is up there, mostly out of bias. I just really love that anime. It's one I had a lot of fun watching, and I think you will too. If you're into that type of anime, you're going to enjoy it. It's a nice change of pace, given a change from animes like Tokyo Ghoul, Naruto, Seven Deadly Sins, all those fighting animes. And so that's all I got for you. Like, subscribe, comment, and enjoy.